A million-dollar question arises after White House incident. Can European nations have the ability and power to handle Russia without America? NATO as of March 2024, consisted of 32 members. Many of them are paying USA only for the defense because they don't have regular armies or have very small number of equipments and personnels. UK, France, and Germany are the key players, but they need billions of euros and many years to fill gap if US exit NATO. The world is gradually becoming multipolar. US President Donald Trump's peace plan for Ukraine has yet to be made public, but it is already quite clear that he expects Europe to play a far bigger role in the continent's future security and contain Russia. In fact, he doesn't even consider Russia an adversary and would rather work with it to achieve a win-win solution. He has called for European NATO members to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP. Trump has engaged Putin and hinted that the US may not defend European allies, causing alarm about NATO's future. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, was formed in 1949. It was a collective security system in which its independent member states agreed to defend each other against attacks by third parties. During the Cold War, NATO operated to counter the threat posed by the Soviet Union. The Warsaw Pact, a military and political alliance between the Soviet Union and 7 Eastern European countries, was created in 1955 to counter NATO. In 1991, the Soviet Union imploded, and the Warsaw Pact was dismantled. There was no raison d'etre for NATO to carry on. However, NATO not only continued but also expanded towards Russia. NATO annual budgets and programs are worth around $4.8 billion. In 2023-2024, the United States and Germany were the biggest contributors, with 16.2% each. The UK contributes around 11%, Italy 8.5%, Spain 5.8%, and others a lesser percentage. In addition, each country's defense budget builds defense capability, which in turn contributes to overall strength. In mid-2024, NATO head Mark Rutte said that NATO members will have to spend considerably more than 3% of GDP on defense. Under the previous target, the military alliance members pledged to spend at least 2% of GDP on defense per year by 2024. 23 of the 32 members have reportedly achieved it. Presently, Poland leads with 4.1% of GDP, Estonia and the USA spend 3.4%, and the UK spends 2.3%. The average for NATO members is around 2%. The US has called for NATO allies to spend 5% of GDP on defense. NATO members also pledged that at least 20% of the defense expenditure would go on acquiring and developing military equipment. After the US withdrawal from Afghanistan, it was expected that the US would concentrate its energies and assets in the Indo-Pacific, where China is the main competitor, challenger, and reason for possible confrontation. But the US military-industrial complex, which has huge political influence, would always like to see the USA at war. The Russian demand to keep Ukraine outside NATO was a legitimate one. Crimea was very crucial for Russian security. As long as there was a friendly regime in Ukraine, Russia's Black Sea naval fleet could operate safely from Sevastopol. The 3 years of conflict has destroyed most of the crucial infrastructure in Ukraine. A very large number of young people have died. Many have fled the country. Ukraine has lost over 20% of its territory. Now as Trump begins to negotiate after 3 years of conflict, Ukraine is not going to get back the territory, nor will it be allowed to join NATO. The US has long been Europe's anchoring power. European leaders have been stunned by Trump and Putin's open rapprochement. The Ukrainian president has been given a dressing down in the White House in the presence of the media. The big three in Europe, Germany, France, and the UK, will have to take calls. More countries in Europe are embracing right-wing nationalism, with their own nation-first approach. The USA is clearly making a point of asking Europeans to leave the welfare state culture and spend much larger sums on the defense. Number of US troops in Europe has ranged between approximately 75,000 and 105,000 military personnel, primarily from the Air Force, Army, and Navy. Germany currently hosts by far the largest number of US forces in Europe, followed by Italy and the UK. However, The biggest single overseas deployment of U.S. personnel is in Japan, where the U.S. maintains more than 50,000 troops. USA has 35,000 troops in Germany, 24,000 in South Korea, 12,000 in Italy and 10,000 in the UK. U.S. forces also have a significant presence in the Middle East and the Gulf, although exact figures are not always disclosed and some deployments are only temporary. More than 40 U.S. military bases span the European continent, from northwestern Greenland to Turkey's border with Russia. Their main bases and installations are in Germany, Italy, Poland, and the United Kingdom. USA is believed to house roughly 100 B-16 gravity bombs, which are smaller, tactical nuclear weapons, in Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, Germany, and Turkey. USA's 3rd Air Force, 3AF, is headquartered at Ramstein Air Base, Germany. The 3rd Air Force had 10 wings totaling over 32,000 personnel. In 2025, the US Air Force deployed aircraft from Lakenheath, England, to Poland and used European tanker support to patrol the NATO-Russian border. The US Air Force has also deployed bombers to Europe for Bomber Task Force (BTF) deployments. The US may also use space assets and unmanned aircraft to support the European force. In February 2025, B-52H Stratofortress aircraft operated in Europe. USAF combat aircraft assets include F-15E Strike Eagle, F-35A Lightning II, F-16s, KC-135R Stratotankers, HH-60G Pavehawk, C-130J Super Hercules, MQ-9 Reaper, among others. Europe needs to be able to defend itself against Russia, with or without the United States. Estimates suggest that to deter Russia, Europe could need 300,000 more troops and an annual defense spending hike of at least $260 billion in the short term. Assessments by NATO, Germany, Poland, Denmark, and the Baltic states put Russia as ready to attack more European states within 3 to 10 years. As Trump and Putin develop a peace deal, Europe remains skeptical. Until it happens, Europe's priority will be to defend Ukraine, which it considers a bulwark against Russia. However, for a long time, Ukraine and the EU have relied on some critical US strategic enablers, including intelligence and satellite communications. These are difficult to replace in the short term, but there are substitutes if necessary.